This is an assembly video for the Simple Tungsten Etcher. So I'll walk you through the parts first and then we'll assemble the machine. As far as fasteners go, you need a M2x5, M2x20 bolts, M3x10 bolts, one M2 nut, some zip ties, and some heat shrink, which is on this wire here. Let me just move these to the side so get some working room. Alright. So the first thing we're going to do is assemble the Z-axis. So we'll start by putting the nut onto the machine. This uses three M3x10 bolts. These don't need to be super tight, they're just tapped into the plastic itself. And then the next thing we need to do is mount this spring on the back here. So we'll put an M3x10 through the spring and just by hand maybe get it started. And go until the head of this makes the spring flush with the back. Next thing we need to do is mount it to the linear guide. So this does have a direction. One side is thicker between the socket head and the top. One side is thicker than the other. The side that's thinner should go facing up. So this will be the bottom. So slide it on like this. And then there's the short M2 bolts. I think they're M2x5. Grab a different wrench. Alright, and I'll set this aside. Actually, first, before I do that, we're going to attach the alligator clip. This just takes some force, so we'll undo it while it's still off the machine. This mounts with two M3x10 screws. These are also tapped into the plastic. But I know that this one's a little tight. This is a piece of ASA plastic, 3D printer filament, and I'm going to thread this through and mount it, but I won't shrink the heat shrink yet. So you just want to thread it through. Oh, before I do that, the length of this is important. So you want a piece of flexible 3D printer filament that's 19 centimeters long. And then also you want to cut one end so it's sharp like this. This will go into this hole right there. The length of this alligator clip lead, so we'll do it from the connector, which is a JST connector, to the base of the alligator clip is 26 centimeters. The electrode connection alligator lead is 31 centimeters. Then that's just a snug fit. No glue or anything needs to go in there. Alright, next thing we need to do is mount this into the chassis. But before we mount it, we need to press fit a nut into the back of this. If you see on the bottom here, there's a hex there for an M2 nut to get press fit in there. A good way to press fit this is if you take the nut and thread it onto the bolts. Just like so. And then press the nut into the hole. And then take the bolt out. So you see it's in there. And you want to make sure the nut is straight. Otherwise the thread will get cross-threaded when we go to install it. See, there's the nut. Alright. Then you want to remove the bottom retention plug on the linear guide. Slide this into the hole. And then on the bottom, you take the M2x20, and that engages with the press fit nut. As I tighten, you'll see that thread coming through. You can see the thread. Alright, that's the bottom attached. Next thing we're going to do is mount the top plate. That's this part here. This is a metal washer with a very, very light amount of white lithium grease on the top. And this has a M2 threaded bushing heat press into the part. This will just engage on the top of the chassis, and then you take an M2x5 and thread this into the top. Next thing to do is we need to mount this spring. There's an M3x10 that goes through this hole and into another, and we need to thread this spring in between. This is going to be tricky to show you, so I think I'll just do it. Now the spring is in. So now the stage is spring loaded, and since we have the top fastener in, we can go ahead and remove the plug. The stage feels nice and smooth. Alright, next thing we're going to do is do some cable management. So we can go ahead and heat shrink this. Actually, before we do that, why don't we thread the Z-screw in. And then we'll lift this about halfway up so that we can get the cable tension correct in this. So you'll see the Z here. This screw is completely loose. It's a loose fit between the washer. So the only place it's pivoting is from the nut. So there can be inaccuracies in the screw and in the mounting hardware here, and the whole system won't bind. The thing that's constraining it is only the linear guide. Right, so I'm just sizing up the heat shrink here. So on this bit, you want the heat shrink to be covering beyond the 3D printer filament, and then this will get zip tied here. So these just get threaded. Just take the zip tie and push it through the top hole. It pokes out the back. You just pull it all the way. First, let's secure this right here. Let's move it forward so you can see. And so you want to make sure to leave enough room for this connector to slot through here. And then come up and it'll attach like that. Looks like we want a little bit more cable length. So we'll fasten it right there. Next is this one. And for this, same thing, it routes through there, along those two zip ties, comes around the back. And to set the length on this one, just want to take it and take an etching dish, slide it in, flip it on, and then you want a kind of neutral angle on this. So let me get this square so you can see. You don't want this clip to be all the way over here, because then it has a tendency to push this out. You want it at about maybe a 30-degree angle from horizontal, so that if you have error in the cable length, that can be taken up as rotation in the cathode. So right about there seems good. Looks like this one's a little long, but that's okay. Alright. So we'll need to put a JST connector on this, but we'll wait until we install the board to make sure the polarity is correct. Alright, next thing to do is install the board. So you can see there's mounting holes along the top, middle, and the edges. There are these two wires. We need to make sure we don't pinch. And then also the voltage regulators here are bent over. You can see they're bent over. And then I have some insulation tape behind it so that they don't short on the back of the board. And then these are M4 by 12, and they have a nylon insulation washer, which is very important because some of these, especially the center one, there's traces that run underneath the washers, and if you don't have this on there, the traces will get cut. Alright, next thing to do is mount some support fixtures for these potentiometers. So there's this angled bracket, which has mounting holes on the side. And then there's a block washer and a nut that go on each shaft. These don't need to be tightened super tight, just tight enough that they won't come loose. And then now we'll go ahead and put on the JST connector. If you look on the board, the silk screen's a little cut off, but right here it says tungsten, and then this bottom connection is for the ring. So this one goes to the Z-axis, and this bottom pin goes to this alligator clip. So this alligator clip is the yellow connector, and the Z-stage is the blue connector. Then the last thing is the etching dish. Slides right in here. And I suppose the very last thing is the power supply. So this is the recommended power supply. It's an 18 volt power supply. The reason it's 18 volts is because the board here has a 15 volt power supply on it. So 18 volts is enough headroom so that when you regulate down to 15, there's still headroom to do the regulation, but not so much headroom that there's a lot of heating caused during the regulation. And that slots into this barrel jack, which is 18 volts center positive. So the barrel is ground. It just goes right in here like that. Okay. Thank you for watching. Happy etching.